How key has Deschamps been then, Cass, to the success of France?
I think hugely. Now, I think he's really gone under the radar as a manager, and the type of things he's done at a football. Not only as a football club, as a player and as a coach, but also international level. He really does let the players make decisions on the pitch for themselves. You know, like I said to you earlier about these chaotic situations can sometimes happen. He seems to know that certain players have to make decisions on the pitch. He liked to do it as a player, where when they're there, they see things that a coach can't see while they're playing a game. He wants them to give them the freedom to go, you make that decision at that time, what you think's the best option.
It's interesting you say that, because Gareth Southgate said that's what he was going to try and employ at this World Cup. Let the players have more of a forward-thinking role in terms of what happens out on the pitch. So that's why he was saying, you know, you might not see me as much on the touchline because I'm giving the power to the players. And sometimes that's something I always think, you know, you can be a manager can ask you to go out and play in a sort of a rigid style, let's say. But if it's not going to plan, you sometimes think, well, why aren't the players just using their initiative? But if the manager's giving you that freedom, well, that's brilliant, I think.
I've told you before now, I met Aimé Jacquet in France because his son played for Nancy Football Club. And before World Cup 98, I spoke to Aimé Jacquet about the team. And look, managers of the past always influence, because obviously Didier Deschamps was part of Aimé Jacquet's 98 winning World Cup team. And he talked about decision-making by players, and he wanted Zidane to be the player that could make the difference in games, but let him have the freedom to think when he was out there, because that's what he was. He was a genius. So he could make his decisions that ultimately would go on to lead France to winning the World Cup. I mean, Didier Deschamps is an incredible guy in many, many ways now. I mean, the highest he's ever been is 17th in the Ballon d'Or. And even though he won 98 and 2000, and in Euros, he was in the list of the Ballon d'Or shortlist. Yeah. He never got one vote.
That's a bit cutting.
He never got one vote because he was always deemed as that water carrier, hard worker, blah, blah, blah. And he's always been the guy that's proved it. I was reading this morning now, and I didn't even know this, that he does the plank for an hour every day.
For an hour?
An hour. Have you ever done the plank, Nat?
Well, I have, but clearly not for an hour. Yeah. So hang on, let's just double check.
He holds his plank for an hour every day, Didier Deschamps. No, you can read it in the paper. What? I find that amazing. I mean, that is a hell of a long time.
I don't understand why he needs to do it for an hour. What's he doing? I hope
he's right into control.
Is he watching something on the TV?
No, he watches it. And by the way, he watches 12 games every weekend. And he's an international manager.
Whilst also doing the plank for
an hour? Well, he holds the plank for an hour.
That's quite incredible. I hadn't heard that before. Wow. I mean, I know that's nowhere near the world record, because I think the world record is absolutely ridiculous.
Hours, but...
Yeah, but that's still quite impressive, an hour. I'm really flummoxed by that.
But he's always proven people wrong about him as a club player, international football. You look at his CV now, it's extraordinary. He's won 98 and 2000 as a player. He's taken France to 2016, 2018 and 22 to where they've got to as a manager. His CV is ridiculous. And that's without mentioning all his club achievements, Champions League winner on more than one occasion.
And yet, why is he not talked about more? Why is he not, and I say decorated in terms of conversations for managerial jobs? Why do you think that doesn't happen so much, as in club management?
Well, before this World Cup, all the talk was about Zinedine Zidane taking the job after Deschamps, right? Not about him staying.
Yeah.
And the French public were okay with that, because their dream is one day to have Zinedine Zidane coach the French national team.
Yeah.
This guy's done everything that you could dream of as a federation. You'd be delighted with this guy, how much this guy's turned out. And I think the standout feature of him is about how his team plays. Take the World Cup final in 2018. Again, I kept using the word chaotic, but it was a chaotic game. They ended up getting in front, winning quite comfortably, and then at the end it was quite close. It got back to 4-3. He's so not afraid of really big decisions. He'll change a winning team as well, by the way. He's done loads of different things that we all take for granted, and he doesn't mind making these big calls every now and again.
He's been in the role for 10 years. I think I'm right in saying, I'm sure this was Julien Laurent that might have mentioned it to us, one of our French football experts that we chat to every now and then. pretty sure I heard them saying that he is definitely going to stay on for the Euros. Is that right? Because I think it's within his contract that he has the decision to stay on, and I think he's already alluded to that.
Committed
I think that's right. But, I mean, he has brought such success to France already, having won the World Cup 4 years ago, and to get to a final and be in a position to potentially win it back-to-back. Quite incredible. And for them, as you say, for the discussion to be about, well, when's Zidane coming in? Seems balmy, really, when you've had such a successful boss.
Yeah, look, sometimes people will overlook what certain players have achieved, not only as players, but as managers, and it's been extraordinary. I think he's already shown he's got a real nous about his coaching that is second to none. Look, international football is different from club football. Yes. So, and that's an obvious. It's not a comparison you can make because you have far more difficult decisions in short term. You know, it's short term. You have to think. He's not really thinking about the Euros in 2 years' time.
Absolutely, yeah. But do you think he should be somebody in the frame for club management roles in the future? I know he has done that.
He has managed. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes certain things at certain times of people's lives come to them, and the French job was perfect for him. And he's in his 50s now. Didier Deschamps. I think he's just shown that he has been capable, even though he's always been deemed as sometimes a bit adrift from everybody else. He's always had that aura about him in France, where people sort of dismissed Didier Deschamps as nothing more than just a player that was lucky enough to win Champions League, World Cup, captain France in these great teams.
But as you say, that's partly because perhaps he was underrated. I know he was brilliant as a player.
He was at Marseille with Eric Cantona and some other great players. And he was part of that great Marseille team that was, for a number of years was one of the best in Europe. He was part of that. But again, he was only seemed to be a passenger in that team, which is really unfair on him. But, that's where the Cantona quote came from, the water carrier, because that's how he was deemed at Marseille.
Fascinating, isn't it?
It's a weird story now. It really is around him.
I'm still freaked out by the fact that he does a plank every day
it
for
says
an
here,
hour. Go on.
But it says here, but he is dedicated. He watches 12 matches every weekend. He is a man with firm habits. He holds the plank for an hour every day.
He must be watching a game, at least at one of these stages. He's holding the plank.
Anyone can do the plank for an hour. That's fair play. I hold my hands up on that one.
I know. I think that's mightily impressive. Who knew? There you go. You learn everything. Every day's a school day, as I'm told. There is Didier Deschamps. That's in the Times, isn't it?
Yeah. I'll pass you. I'm showing you.
No, I truly believe you. I just wanted to check which paper was saying
No, I'd rather have
There we go. Didier Deschamps doing the plank.
I've already made clips of the week because apparently...
What have you said?
I don't know.
Oh,
I'm laughing.
Okay. You have your own little joke then to yourself.